Hello, everyone. I'm Christina, and I'm popping on here to do a live. I know that I was supposed to be here a couple days ago, but the weather wasn't permitting, and we have window. So, um, there is a lot going on in prophecy, and a lot going on in the news all around you. And to be honest, things are cyclical. We have a solar system. We have things that rotate up there, and so sometimes patterns repeat. And right now, we've got a pretty major one. It comes around. It can happen in different places, but we are facing a famine of biblical proportion. Pretty unavoidable. Um, Hello, Brian, Brenda, and Connie. Good to share. Thank you for the thumbs up. Hello, Kathleen and Bart from Arizona. So good to see you guys. Alrighty. I also want to give a quick shout out to Paul and Adrian and Daily Excellence with Pastor Anthony. Links are in the description box below, along with the links to my backup channel. All right, so the title of today's live is Historical Signs That Famine is on the Way Now. Common causes can be various and combined problems, but the common causes are overwhelming crooked politicking, economic collapse, war, drought, flooding, unseasonable cold, typhoons, vermin depredations, insect infestations, plant diseases, deforestation, and I'm sure some other things, but those seem to be the most common. Right? In history, we have a very famous famine that took place in Joseph's time. Now, there are two Josephs that I know of that are spoken of in the Bible, and one is Joseph, Jesus' stepdad, Joseph. That was with his mother, Mary. But there was another Joseph who was one of the 12 tribes of Judah, one of the brothers of Judah. He was given a coat of many colors by his father, Jacob. And he was also the blessed child. Now, he had dreams before this famine came. And if you look around, people in our time, starting about 10 or 15 years ago, started having dreams and visions of a famine coming, starting with shelves, things start getting sparse, shortages, that eventually everything just goes away almost, where there's these long lines, you can barely get anything, and then people are actually starving. So it started off with Joseph's dreams, but long before his famine dream, he had a dream about 11 plants bowing down to him, but he also saw 11 stars bowing down to him because he's one of the 12 tribes. The other 11 stars would be the other 11 tribes bowing down, and the sun and the moon. And the sun and the moon, interestingly enough, is talked about in Revelation 12. So that might have, it was a dream, a vision of the future. So maybe that could be a part of it. But these were his dreams, and those are the dreams that got him sold into slavery, where he decoded the Pharaoh or king's vision dream of the famine that was coming and got everybody ready. But in more recent times, starting with the famine of 1315 to 1317, this area had a nice warm season before the famine. Growing conditions were good. But then and naturally, when you've got food, there is an explosion in the population and an increase in wealth, growing cities. But all of this actually can be a precursor to famine. Markets became, now this is important, markets became the center of the city rather than the churches. It was then that the climate began to cool, affecting the crops. Growing seasons shortened, floods and bovine plague affected prices. Sound like now? Grain supply went low, demand went high, almost like today's headline. Breakdown in manufacturing and agriculture. That's a big one. Wiped out savings and capital. Food shortages became rampant, weakened populations from malnutrition, right? So overcrowding had now become an issue. Disease crept in from malnutrition and prostitution. Usually that's the case, but disease will creep in poverty-ridden areas. Growing zones changed, like they have now. Importing became more frequent. Shipping system became wonky. Food couldn't be stored for very long due to lack of salt production. Cannibalism became a thing, and that is in the future. Prostitution, crime, and disease skyrocketed. Farmers and tenants couldn't pay rent, lost their places, and or fell into debt. That is happening now because they're having like a housing collapse, a lot of bankruptcies, car market collapse, banks are imploding, stores are closing. So we're seeing that. We're seeing that. All right. It got worse when they took out more debt to pay their debts to get back on track. Yeah, their banks imploded that were propping up the monarchy, and people started to invest locally to propagate some stability. So that was a big start to the solution to their problems, was to start investing locally. Okay, Irish potato famine of 1845 to 1852. Now this first one up here only lasted 2 or 3 years. This one lasted for 7. And it had to do with water and mold. A lot of moisture was in the air. Mike from Around the World was saying recently that there's so much moisture in the atmosphere that mold is going to become a problem, which means potato famine will be back in the news. Blight, moldy crops. Okay, within a month, blight spread through Ireland. People were handcuffed by politics again from selling food. So even if they grew it, they couldn't sell it because there was too much political red tape. The higher ups in England, now you got to remember, Ireland and England and Scotland and England have never, well, at least for a long time, weren't on that good of a ground with each other. So the higher ups in England felt that ignoring the problem in Ireland, much like Biden does, just ignores the problem, would be best because it would just go away on its own. The age-old bitterness had not died between the two nations even in the face of peril. No work, food, or money was around. Deaths began to rise. In 1847, England gave them mushy soup for a small time. That's where the term soup kitchen came from, but it was like they were talking like it was just really bad. It wasn't really good. It wasn't nutritious. Hold on a second. Kitty, hey, settle down. Thank you. They're getting froggy. Okay, so deaths began to rise. Citizens began to flee, and they faced a lot of death in their travels. And one of the things that I've noticed is that just before things get really bad, the people who get wind of it and have the opportunity will flee. People will start fleeing, not just one or two. And in this case, it was true. And the other day I was at the post office. The post office I've been to a million times. And it's always really long lines for people to mail things. But that wasn't the long line. I went straight to mail my package. The line was people getting their passports to flee this country. That line was very long. And most of them didn't look American. I don't know if any of them looked, I don't know, just they were getting out. They were getting out. I guess they were American if they needed passports, but whoever they were, it was a lot of them. They were ready to go. And I felt like that was the sign that this this right here, people fleeing. And I've been hearing it kind of broken around where people are making plans or already getting out of America in advance of what they see is coming. There was a cholera outbreak. The turnaround happened after 1 million deaths. Going to go to the comment section super duper fast, see how everybody's doing. Hello, Neo and Clarissa, and Diana, Debbie, Veronica, and hello, Wendy, Meg. It's good to see everybody. Joseph. Phoenix, Arizona. That's great. All right. So the next famine we're going to look up. I mean, I'm hoping y'all can see where there definitely is a pattern, and there's things from the past that we can see is rolling right along now. Okay, this whole ignoring the problem thing is not going to work. Okay, the next famine we're going to look at, because there are way more, but we're not going to do way more. We're going to do probably one more, and it's this one. Russian famine of 1921 to 1922. Economic disturbances from civil war, and rail systems couldn't distribute food reliably. And that's where this famine came into play. It was a 2-year famine. In this short amount of time, though, about 7 million people died from famine. Food became so scarce, the beginning of the first year, that villagers were eating worms, grass, bark, and other strange things. And this next thing is something I've warned about in my past videos. I said, beware, because one day they're going to say something along the lines of a community pot. And they're going to come in and they're going to take what you've got, and you're going to get breadcrumbs. Seriously, sort of like that first soup kitchen. It's not going to be worth much, but they're planning to do that. They're going to try to come in and take what everybody has, knowing that it will leave them to starve in the name of better good. That's what they're going to do, because they already did it. Don't think they won't. They're kind of already taking people's stuff to begin with, aren't they? Food became so scarce. Yep. So the food was taken from the peasants by brigades, not just once, but many times, in a collective farm. That's what they called it. Instead of community pot, they called it a collective farm. And the farming that they did was behind security. So, and this is so hypocritical, because they could come in and take your food, but if you try to take even a leaf of their food that falls outside the fence, you would be executed. So under socialism, starvation and cannibalism reigned. All right. So we take a look now. The dollar's dying. A major economic collapse is in progress. Banks are collapsing, bankruptcies, major layoffs at major stores across the nation, across the world. Tons of manufacturing plant fires, threat to shipping through trains, droughts, stranded barges, cold wars. People have been borrowing to pay debt down. Crime is up. Wars and threats of wars, that's a common cause of famine. Housing and car markets are crashing. Now, you would wonder why your government would want to go into war when the nation's not doing so good, but war is historically a moneymaker. They don't care necessarily what happens to you. It's all about the almighty dollar to them, okay? Also, we're facing food shortages, crop issues, and all of these are signs. They're prophetic and historical signs. Now, this next piece of information is going to be why it will be impossible, for the most part, for most people to help others. One, everybody's going to be trying to take, but this thing right here, you have to ask yourself, How many meals does it take for one person to survive for a year? And do you know how long you're going to survive? And this is if you're one of those people that are even lucky enough to have enough food for one person for 1 year. Okay. You don't know how long you're going to need it or even how long you'll be there, but 3 meals a day for 1 year. And I know this is being generous. A lot of people say 2 meals. I can break it down to 2 or even 1, maybe, but it's still going to weaken you and you're going to need your strength. Seriously. 3 meals a day for 1 year for one person is 1,080 meals. For two people for 1 year, 2,160 meals. Three people, 3,240 meals. Five people, 5,400 meals. If you eat 3 meals a day, and that's without snacks, of course. Okay. That's for the lucky ones. All right. And if it goes beyond a year, and it will, and this is why people aren't going to be able to help because the things that they do have will be taken from them. And what they do have, they can't spare any in most cases. This is the numbers that show why. It's not just some heartless thing. Anybody who hasn't prepared or learned something, it is prophecy that they will suffer. And there's not going to be a whole lot anybody can do. Okay? We have an article that says, how much food storage should you have per person? Now, here's the thing. You can have all the food in the world, but if you don't have any water, you're going to die. So having water and having clean water are two different things. Just because you filter water, you still have to boil it or it's still not clean. And how do you know there aren't heavy metals in there? You've got to be able to test it some kind of way. You understand? You got to have water first. So this article talks about both. And it says whether you are preparing for a zombie apocalypse or simply like the idea of being prepared, having an adequate supply of food storage is a great reassurance. The amount of food storage you should have to sustain an average adult for 1 year is 390 pounds of grains, 70 pounds of beans, which are also called legumes, 25 pounds of dried meat, 90 pounds of dried dairy, 25 pounds of fats and oils, 60 pounds of sugars, 90 pounds of dry fruits, and an assortment of other goods for one adult for 1 year. Do you know how hard that is to do? Especially if you're starting today. So it might look like a person has a lot of food, but we'll see if they still have it 6 months, 3 months, a year from then. Okay, at the end of the day, the amount of food you will need per person will be largely dependent on a person's body mass index, which will be reflected by the individual's height, weight, and age. But it also reflects their medical needs. Like I said, here we don't use peanut butter because somebody has a peanut butter allergy. Not me, but still. Everybody's needs are different. Some people can't have a lot of salt. Some people can't have a lot of sugar. Some people need the sugar because they're hypoglycemic. You see what I mean? You can't necessarily assume that the food somebody else may or may not have will be suitable for others. It says it goes without saying that adults will need more and children will need slightly less, but ultimately it never hurts to be extra prepared by planning ahead and stocking up more than you need. In addition, there are some factors you should be well aware of when determining how much food storage to have, as well as ensuring that your food is stored properly. That's a big deal. All right, this article goes on and has some great tips. It's by Build a Stash. An article is named "How much food storage should you have per person?" In case you want to check that out later. I'm going to click out of that. All right. Also, you want to make sure that you have a way to cook that food. Don't forget that live straws are out there. And then, it's one thing to suck the water through the straw, but they also have a bag system where you can suck water through the straw into a bag and collect more for like cooking or whatever. It is recommended widely that every household keep a minimum of 3 days of extra food and water in addition to their normal stock for emergencies. Natural disasters are on the rise, and more often than not, it goes on for, well, far more than 3 days. They're saying, and this is like being recommended from even the higher ups in the whole world. They're all saying you need to have. But now I think it's gone up to a minimum of 2 weeks extra supply. And let's not forget the biggest sign of all, the third horseman of the apocalypse, famine and pestilence, because apparently famine is not just in our future and starvation, but the disease that comes with it. It's not just these plagues that are going around. I mean, it's going to be plagues and pestilence, disease and insects, and not going to be good. It's gonna be coming from all directions. So I'm just letting you know, if y'all decide to eat the cats, be prepared for the rats to come in and eat you, your kids up, and any food you might have in your house, as well as spread their little disease everywhere. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to have a couple of good days of weather, so if there's any chance for me that I'll be able to get on, hopefully it'll be soon. Oh, and an update to the car. I got the windows working right, and I'm waiting on the last 2 struts to come in the mail, and all 4 struts are fixing to get replaced because it turns out they're shot. I was wondering what that creaking was. No. So again, I want to thank all of you for the support. And the windows coming down, that was important because we don't have AC. And it was 115, 17 degrees in July last year. We had to get those windows down. So again, I just love you guys. And I want to thank you for the blessings. Just going to make sure everybody's doing good. Diana says, this is what I see, Christina, 8 billion people on Earth. A third will die by famine. Oh, by war, by the time the AC sits in the temple. I don't know. That's it. It's possible. That's possible. Definitely possible. It's a lot of people. Yep. You just start, you put a little bit back. That's how we've all done it. Hello, Dan. Love you, Neo. Cheap diet, free weight loss plan, silver lining. For some, I would just die. They're like, I'm ready. Yes. I know I'm blessed to be here every day since almost died the last time. So I'm just glad I got a chance to do better than I did before and to do something that's beyond just me, to make some kind of difference in this problematic world, and to try to get you ready as much as possible. Frosted Flakes does count as food as far as I'm concerned. I love them very much. I'm a big O's girl too. O's cereal. Fills those food buckets. A lot of people do. A lot of people do. And the dehydrated food I find is best if you can get it, especially at a good price, because it seems to save space and it goes like it saves a lot longer than a bajillion cans everywhere. I've just, it doesn't, like, the cereal can go bad, crackers go bad, certain things just don't keep it, even if you have a lot of it. So, hello, Arakel. I thank you very much. All right. So, what I need you to understand is whatever you can do it. If you buy a bell pepper, save those seeds, dry them out. I don't have any land. Well, get some buckets. Do something, because everything is going to count. Don't forget about the water. And also, cleanliness is going to become a thing. All right. Get a spray bottle, put your favorite cleaner in there with some water, and that way it's ready to go. I am a well, pine cleaner, not necessarily pine, but pine cleaner and water kind of girl. So whenever I have water outages or whatever, I can still clean my sink, spills on the floors, just think cleanliness, think buckets to get that toilet flush. All right. I love you guys. Know this is coming. Cannibalism is in the future. I'd rather die personally, but it's there. It's in the future. I love you guys, and oops, I will. I'll talk to you soon, everybody. Bye.